Hi everyone, this is Yahoo Studios. Welcome to the final episode of our Toothpick Dispenser series. We started with modeling, moved on to texturing, and now we'll finish by using geometry nodes to scatter toothpicks and adding a custom label. Let's wrap this up. Let's get started. Alright, now to pick from where we left off, going back to our model here. Okay. Alright. It's looking quite great. Okay. So now, if you realize, every toothpick holder or dispenser, should I say, has some sort of label across it, and that's what you're going to try and do. All right. So before you do that, we'll press Shift, then hold S, and go cursor toward origin. Then I'm going to shift a mesh, add a cylinder. Then I'm going to just adjust these values to fit the required radius, just about the size of the holder itself. Then reduce the depth where I'm going. It doesn't have to be too tall, something around like this. And make sure that you choose the scarf fill type to nothing. Alright. So that there's no face on the top and on the bottom. Alright. To bring it up, we press G then Z, bring it up and place it somewhere here. That looks great. We'll press S, holding shift, then drag our mouse so that it just barely touches the surface of it. Shouldn't go inside, but just around here should be okay. Okay, then we go to front view, we go to edit mode, make sure that you have air select on, no, rather face select. Now I want to select a couple of faces. So start from this middle two, then expand our selection. I'm doing it this way so that I make sure that they are even on each side. And I think we can add two more here and two more there. Let me see how that looks. Maybe it's too much. Reduce it by one. Alright, so you can do Control I to invert the selection. X, then vertices. Now they are gone. We'll Control Z. Make sure S select mode. Shift select these edges. Press S delete vertices. Then we'll just add this extra bits here, X faces rather. Okay, I think this should be fine. Go back to object mode. Okay, we see that we left some faces here for some reason. Just go to edit mode, make sure your face selects by pressing 3 on the row above the top row keys. So select, press delete vertices, go back to object mode. Yeah, I think this should be fine. Alright, go to shading. First of all, I want to check the UV of it first. So you press A. You first want to apply the scale before doing anything. So go to object mode, hit Control A, and then go to scale. Alright. Go back to edit mode. Make sure that everything is selected. Hit U on the keyboard. With unwrap selected, click on Smart UV project and unwrap. And this gives us a nice UV to work with. Alright. So go back to shading, click new. You just name this as a label. And with this one, you're also going to use an image texture for the label. I have one, so that's what I open. The link to the image I'm using should be in the description where you can download it for free in case you want to use the same label. But you can really use any image you want. So I'll connect the color to the color, open my image, going down, looking for it. Okay, this is a PNG. Okay, you see that we got some weird things going here. That has to do with the UV. What you can do is rotate this around, scale it on the Y, just to about have everything. Let's see if we can do this. Select this, D, Y. Okay, I think you have a good label here. So that looks awesome. So smooth. Alright, beautiful. So in case you want to add maybe a surface imperfection, we just do what we did to the rest of it. That is to the other parts. Add an image texture, plug the color into the roughness, load your surface imperfection you want. Just choose any really. I like to hit Ctrl T on this. Let's see if there's anything else to edit. It should look a bit rough, so I'll edit this with the color ramp. Okay, make it a bit more rough. Make it white. Increase this too as well. Yeah, make it white. Can't really see anything, so we like to play with the scale here. Add the value, connect it to the scale. Scale it ever so slightly. Okay, 0.5 seems to work fine. So you get some detail over there. And I think this is fine. Can decrease the scale even further. Yeah, and that should be just fine. Go to layouts, press 0 to enter camera view, and let's view it from rendered view. And this looks beautiful. That looks nice. Okay, so now what I want us to do is that we are going to separate the top half from the bottom just by collections. Okay, So go to wireframe, press 1, then just drag to select the top half around here. Shift select to deselect the camera. Make sure that it is selected. You don't want the empty to be selected. Make sure that it is selected. Press M, go to new collection, and then you can just name it cover. Click create. Then put it here. Then this, you can press F2 to rename it, and just call this the label. We'll drag it under to our toothpick holder and put a cover, drag a cover to the under the toothpick holder. Then let's see, then this and this, we'll put it in a new collection under toothpick holder, and we'll call this the body, and that's fine. Okay, so now here comes one of my favorite parts, where we are going to generate the toothpicks. Alright, so before we do that, in order to see what you are doing, what you want to do is select our body, go under viewport display, and now in the color section, what you want to do is reduce the alpha so that you can kind of see, give us a see-through effect on what you are doing. Now the most fun part of it all, geo nodes. This is where you are going to generate our toothpicks. Alright, so then in order to do that, what you are going to do is you are going to select a surface from which you want to generate our toothpicks from. Okay, go to mesh. So we are going to add mesh and want to select a circle. This is way too big. What you want to do is reduce the radius size somewhere around here, just to cover the base. And for now, what you can do is disable the cover and hide the label. Maybe I should hide the holder for now. We'll go to edit mode, and instead of pressing F to fill, what you are going to do is hit Ctrl F and select Grade Fill. Alright, which fills our face with even more faces, okay, giving us some extra geometry or topology. Go back to object mode, and we can just select, maybe call it surface. This is where we are going to generate our toothpaste from. Now of course, we are going to instance some toothpicks, so you just want to model a simple toothpick. Alright, go to our toothpick holder, shift A, go to add mesh, cylinder. I want to make sure that under our cylinder, our vertices are 6. We have 6 vertices. Reduce our radius to be ever so slim, like this, as well as the depth. That's how deep or tall it is. Somewhere around here should be okay for now. Press GZ, bring it up. You can see the size. Go to edit mode. Press S, Shift Z to scale it, make it more slim. Go to face select mode. Select the top face here. Press 1, and just want to bring it up. Maybe as this tall. You're also going to do Ctrl R. Add 2 loop cuts. Make sure they are 2, not 3. 2. Double click to select or to confirm our selection. press S then Z, scale it up somewhere around here should be okay. Go to wireframe, select our vertices, select the top vertex as well as the bottom vertex. Press S then Shift Z to scale them down a bit. You don't want to go all the way, but just a bit, something like this. You can select the middle vertices like this, and we scale them in just ever so slightly, not too much, but maybe ever so slightly. Go back to object mode, and there we have a normal toothpick, and this is our toothpick. All right, now we want to move this origin point where it's rotating from. Instead of rotating from here, to be rotating here. This is important for how we are going to spread our toothpicks around. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to go to edit mode, under wireframe, select the bottom vertices, make sure that you're on vertex select mode. Select these vertices and you can press Shift S and do cursor toward origin or cursor to selected. Alright. In case yours is not, your 3D cursor is not at where it's supposed to be. Since already there, I don't need to press this, but in case your 3D cursor is not at this point, you can either do one of these two. Alright. After doing that, go back to object mode, right click, go to set origin, then make sure you click origin to 3D cursor. So now when we rotate, see rotates from that point, and that is what we want. Okay, so we can press F2 to rename, then we'll just name it toothpick, put it there, and we can push this aside. Okay, so now it's time to generate some toothpicks. Alright, we'll click this our surface and go into geometry nodes. Kind of pin this for now, trying to see where it is. Okay, alright, this are our surfaces, and then I want you to click the new button, new. And now in this tutorial, I'll try my possible best to explain each node and what it's doing. Alright, so this on the left side we have the input node, which shows the input that is coming to the mesh, the outputs. So think of it as some sort of, maybe the way a processor works, you input data into it, then it brings out information, and that's kind of how geometry nodes work. Okay, as you go on further, I think you get the concept of what I'm saying. We want to add a node, okay, so that when we distribute our toothpicks across the surface, we can see it. Alright, so we'll do that by pressing Shift A, or you go to add, we'll go to Shift A, we'll search for distribute. I want to select distribute points on faces, this one, and bring that here. And I see that our mesh is gone, but in real actually it's still there, just that you can't see the mesh because this has taken over. Alright, now we are going to select Poisson disk. These are two different distribution methods. Okay, Poisson disk, the main settings we have are the density, that is how much instances we are creating, and the seed is more of like a random value. Alright, Poisson disk has some extra features such as setting the minimum distance. This helps in avoiding things like collisions or overlapping. You have the density mass, that's the maximum density, and the density factor. This kind of like how to control the amount of instances you can see at a time. And this seed is more or less like a random value. Okay, We are going to add another node and we'll name it, and it's called instance on points. We'll just put it here. So instance on points kind of is describing itself. It's going to place an instance wherever the points are. But right now you see that you can't see the points we are talking about. Because our surface has a very little area, alright, we can't see it because Blender calculates this density mass in points per square inch. I believe that's the right term. You can confirm for me. Points per square inch. So that means it's going to generate about 10, I believe, over an inch. That is in real life or in actual measurements. But since we can't see anything, it's because our surface is really small. In order to view it, we can go to something like 10,000. Still can't see anything. Then just try and increase it the more. What you can do is hit Ctrl Shift and then select this. Then boom, we see our points. You see it's a lot. You can reduce it to maybe 100, maybe 1000, just ever so slightly. At first they are big because it's the default size for points in Blender, which is really huge. But since we don't want this, alright, what you're going to do is first make sure you pin this window, then drag in our toothpick object, the one we just modeled, drag it in here, and connect the geometry to the instance input. And then we see our toothpicks, alright. See that we see them. So in order to see more, all we need to do is click on density and just type in a huge value. Then we see more and more of these. So we can go for something like maybe this about 5,000. Let's go 10,000. Still not much. Just be creative and don't be afraid to type in any amount that comes to your mind. 50,000. We'll go with 100,000, 150,000, just to generate some toothpaste for us to look at. Okay. Alright. So these look awesome, alright. But for the sake of scale, I want us to hide our holder. Then we know how big our toothpicks are. You can see some of them are overlapping outside. That's because of the width of the actual surface. What we do is we'll go to edit mode. Then we'll just press S. First of all, make sure that everything is selected by pressing E. Press S and scale it down slightly so that everything fits in the middle here. Go back to object mode. Okay. Just scale it ever so slightly, just so that it fits there. Okay. See our toothpicks there. But right now you see that they are not as tall as we want them to be, because we need them to be at least almost to this point. All you can do is go to edit mode, go to wireframe, select the top vertices and just bring them up. Yes, just around here. And that's fine. We see our toothpicks when we come to front view. It is unrealistic, so we'll select them. That is our surface. Press G, then Z, holding shift, then bring them up ever so slightly, just so that they touch the surface, and this is fine. Okay. Feel free to edit the mesh any way you want to. Just make sure that, okay, go back to object mode. Okay, so now what we've done is that we've generated points on which to tell us where each toothpick will be generated on. The instance on point helps us choose which object you want to instance, which is a toothpick here, a toothpick model. But still we want to have some more control over it, alright? So what you are going to do is you are going to play a little with the scale and maybe the rotation of each toothpick so that it looks a bit more natural. Right now they are all straight and have exactly the same height, which is unrealistic when you see a natural toothpick, alright, or a pack of toothpicks should I say. So in order to do that, what we'll do is in our geometry nodes window, we'll press Shift A, we'll search for random value, okay, and before you connect this random value, you see that we have these X, Y, and Z values which control the scale of our objects. So on the X, it controls the scale, on the Y, and of course on the Z, which is up and down. Okay, if you connect a random value right now to each of the scale, see that it scales it in different ways. Some are thinner than each other, others are taller, and this doesn't look nice. Okay, but what we want to look for is a node called the combine XYZ. So just type combine. This comes up, you select it, place it in there, and make sure that it's on Z. Right now you can't see anything because you need to adjust these values, okay? So you just adjust these. Right now it's on float, so the reason why we can't see any of these is because the X and Y are set to 0, which is unnatural, which means that it literally has no thickness at the moment. So all we need to do is select these two and set them to 1. Then we see our toothpicks. All we now need to do is adjust these levels. What this random value is doing is that it's helping us distribute random heights, okay, on the Z axis to each individual instance being created. Okay, hope you understand. And with this, it has different data types. We don't know how quickly burst through. Float is for like numbers with decimals, as you can see. Integer is for like whole values, numbers without decimals. Vector is more of like how this is presented. Hope you understand. It's a set of numbers which can indicate a value of something, the same way that a scale is calculated here in Blender. And of course, you have Boolean, which is basically a true or false value. Hope you understand. But I want to leave it on float. This minimum means the minimum height a toothpick should be and the maximum height a toothpick should be. That's what this min and max is. This seed is just a random value for the generation. Hope you understand. Okay, so with the min, just want to increase the minimum so that they are all uneven. To make sure my surface is selected. They are all uneven. Increase the minimum. Okay, so I think something of this sort is okay for me. I want to bring this here. Okay, so now the same thing we did for this, we also want to do for the rotation. Okay, so we are going to add, yes, another combine XYZ. So we'll just search for that. And since you're connecting to the rotation, make sure that the X and Y values are on 0. Everything here is on 0. Connect it to the rotation. Alright. You also want to add for another random value. Then first of all, connect it to the X. And see that once you connect it, everything goes haywire. See that they come out of their natural positions. Even though this indicates that everything is working fine. It's working fine. Go to side view, put off overlays. You can add the original toothpick. All we need to do to correct this is just adjust the maximum value, maybe something like this, as well as the minimum. Okay, so you see they kind of have randomness in them. We'll duplicate this and connect it to the Y value as well. And I think this is fine. This is beautiful. And this is realistic too. Just want to cross check that none of them is going out of. If any of them seem to be going out like this one, what you can do is just adjust the values of your min and max rotations. That is for both X and Y. Doesn't have to go so overboard, but just enough so that they don't look all the same. And now another node you are going to add is the set material node. Now what this node helps us to do is it helps us to set a material to the whole instances as a whole, which is good for us. Right now there's no material here, but we shall add one soon. Now before we go on to texturing our toothpicks, what I want us to do is have a way of easily controlling the density and some important tools here within a node tree via the modifier stack. Okay, so what you are going to do is something like the density, for example, density max. We are going to plug this into this small gray circle here. You see, and this exposes here, so now you can control it from here. See, and it still works fine. And you're going to do the same for some of the important nodes here. So we'll go, for example, the toothpick. We want to control that. In case you want to rename it, maybe you don't like identity mask, maybe you can say number of tooth, number of toothpicks, for example. See, that helps us to identify the value associated with it, and that's what we use in naming our outside values. I hope you understand. Alright, so let's looking for something else. What else will we need? So we can rename this to object instance. In case you don't know how I brought this up, All you need to do is press N to both open and close this panel to bring this up. Alright, you can name the node tree to be maybe pix generator. The names are node tree for us. Okay, we also want to control the random values of both the x and y. So maybe for example the minimum scale, for example, you can just name it as minimum height, and we'll select this, name it as maximum height, and just do the same to some of these ones as well. So as for this would be minimum x rotation. You can also say maximum x rotation. Go to minimum value. This would be minimum y rotation. Yes. Then we go to maximum y rotation, and you can save it. So we have some of the important things here, as well as you want to control the material which you want to use. So drag that to this here. Yes, and then we can select a material from here. So you can just name this as, okay, we can actually leave it as material. If you want to rename it, that's fine. You can also change how they look like, as a factor, angle, time scene, distance. Hope you understand. In case you added something by mistake, you can delete it from here or add a new item here, which can be an input, output, or a panel. Hope you understand. Okay, so now time to set the material of the toothpick. So now since we've done that, we can now control the density from here. Can add a label. Want to save it first. Hide it from here for the moment. Just want to increase the amount of toothpicks we have. Control some of the rotations a bit. Remember to hold shift. Alright. Now in our lights, what I want us to do is to press Alt R, Alt G, hit our light, bring it up, GZ, and then our light panel, I want to turn it to an area light. Go to square and just increase the size. You can reduce it to be about 400 watts in power, maybe 300. Want to view this, and that looks beautiful. Okay, so now time to texture our toothpicks. So now what we can do is that we can select them, go to material and hit new. You can just rename it to be toothpick. You can change the color to be anything we want. I realize that when you change the color, nothing happens. That's because you are changing the color of the surface of it, which we can't see, but not for the toothpick. That's why we created the output for the material here. All you need to do is click here and select toothpick. Then we see it here. Alright, hope you understand. So now in our node tree, for now we can hide our holder. Just want to focus on our toothpicks. Okay, so we can add some roughness to the toothpicks. Maybe add a little bit of subsurface, because some toothpicks, if you observe, they allow some amount of light to go through them, and then you don't want all of them to have exactly the same color. So what you are going to do is you are going to add a color ramp. You are going to add a color ramp, add it to the base color. Search for an object info node and control it with random. So that this way, each of our toothpicks just gets a different color. So I want to control this and put this as some sort of shade of brown. You can copy the hex, go to the black, then paste it here. All we need to do is maybe change the value of it just a tad. You can also try adding a noise texture. Control T. Let's make sure the factor is set to factor. Alright. If you notice closely, you can see that there are some color changes going on. Maybe I'll make this darker so that you can see. Right, I'll just put this here. Go to object vectors. Let's see what that gives us. Then generated is fine. Just to give us a different shade of toothpicks. Okay, alright. Now in case when we don't like this, what you can just simply go is with random colors like this. It's all up to you. This is just an option. This is also another option you can choose from. So I think I'll go with this. Alright. So I think we'll just go with a random value here. And then just change this ever so slightly. Bring this down. Put off our overlays. Want to save our project file. Then view it in rendered mode. Okay, you see you can't see our object because the light is way too powerful. So reduce it to maybe 10 watts. Now all we need to do is make sure that the light is up. Just drag it up. Yeah, and those are some toothpicks we have. Looking very nice. Alright, so in this video, so far we've learned how to generate toothpicks and control them from the modifier stack. Now what you can do is hide the holder, the label, as well as the cover. Can keep the toothpick hidden. This looks fine. You can see that the toothpaste seem a little bit smaller than the actual container. So what you do is you go to solid mode, make sure you select our surface, go to edit mode, and just scale it up just a bit, not too much. You can also increase our maximum height as well as our minimum so that they are ever so close. Let's decrease it a bit. Nice. Alright, I want to use the power of the award lighting, maybe 2.05. Now you can see the lighting that we have with a natural light. Maybe we can just work a little bit on lighting now. Okay, see now when we rotate around, we have some of them going outside. So we just control them with the rotation. Alright. All you are going to do is also correct a camera view. So you want to view from the front. Make sure that this padlock is locked. Move it ever so slightly. What you can do is make sure that you set this to 3D cursor so that we rotate our camera around the 3D cursor. Press G then X and move this ever so slightly. To local Y. And hide this and we see, look at it in rendered mode. Now let's work a little bit on lighting. So you also want to set a material for our ground. What you can do is go to shading, maybe something simple. Search for a checker texture. Something simple. And just increase the scale. Increase it. And just set the two values to some colors. And I just have an interesting background to work with. One thing I want us to do is also reduce the number of our toothpicks. They look a lot in there. So maybe 250,000. I'll just remove the 3 and replace it with a 2. And this is basically just up to your creativity. Concerning this, we can also add an image texture. And I'll select the principal BSDF. Hit Ctrl Shift T. Look for that same image. Yes. So that's- okay, we get some lighting there. So you can increase the power of light here. You see that our ground looks pixelated because it's an image. So all you can do is just increase the scale, or you can simply just select everything. Shift select this, increase it so that we remove those pixelated looks. Okay, that looks beautiful. So we just try and light our scene, move our lights, point them at. So all you can do is go here, rotate on the y-axis, trace set a pivot point back to a medium point, rotate it on the y and just point it at a toothpick. Alright. You can also add a constraint so that no matter how much we move our lights, it still is focused on the jar, should I say. So you go to object constraints, make sure your light is selected, go to constraints, add a down track constraint, select the object to be this empty right here, which I believe is a mirror. If the right now is pointed somewhere else, we need to set negative Z, then that's fine. So you just want a light to be ever so slightly back, maybe to come here as well. Go back to rendered view. Alright, select this, increase our lights. You can also add a backlight, which is usually called a rim light, to it. I still feel like some of the toothpicks are coming out, so go to edit mode, scale this down. I think that should be okay. So now for the rim lights, go to area, reduce our size, GY, rotate it on the X 90 degrees, no rather negative 90 degrees. Go to our front view, bring it up. Want to make sure it's a spotlight. Reduce our spot size, increase our radius a bit, and you can increase this to maybe 80 watts and then see where you go from here. Go to rendered mode. This gives us some sort of a nice look. Can also bring my camera down, something like this. Rotate X. I'll reduce the viewport display value to size 0.1. Something like this. I'll R double X to rotate it, holding shift ever so slightly. Okay, something like this. Alright, then I think we have a nice toothpick model here. We've gone from modeling the body, modeling the cap and everything within it, to now all of this. All we have to do is add maybe an extra light, put it forward to the side here, make it a point lamp, make it 10 watts. This is just some simple 3-point lighting, just so that we are able to see the, bring it up a bit. And there we see our toothpicks and everything on it. I believe this is nice, and this will be our end of the tutorial. If you made it this far, from the very beginning of modeling to even the toothpick creation, I give you a thumbs up. Hopefully you shall see me in my next tutorial. But wait, before we go, in case you are working on some project and maybe you want to use this model, I want to move everything at once. One thing you can do is you can add an empty. Let me make this really quick. So it's really huge. You go to add empty, reduce the radius, go to 1, bring it up just about here. Now you can also still adjust the size here. What you can do is you can select the toothpick holder, right click, click on select objects. We don't want our lights to be here, so shift select them, drag them onto this collection. Try it again, select objects. Want to make sure that our new empty is the last selected. Remember, not the reference which we've hidden. Hit Ctrl P, object keep transform. So now once we select this, you're able to move everything. You can even rotate it from here. It is nice. So thank you for following this tutorial. If you made it this far, I give you a thumbs up, and hopefully you shall see me in my next tutorial. With that being said, this is a goodbye from me.